creating a faith community in your home. Now, what is a faith community? What's a faith community? Yes. It is a group of people of which you are a part. Does your child see themselves as an individual in this world, or do they see themselves as part of a larger community or group? One of the reasons gangs are so persuasive and so alluring to people, especially young men, is because they want to be part of something greater than themselves. And they'll endure the hardships of gang life and the danger to achieve that. We're believers that no one individual is greater than the team. As my favorite college football coach of all time, Bo Schembechler, said, the team, the team, the team. We have a Zilke team. Yes, it sounds cheesy. I know. Cheesy works when your children are young. Levels of cheesiness can work even as they get older. But I want to encourage you to give your family an identity greater than the individuals therein. Because at some point your child's going to want to be a part of some group. Because they're going to find value in being involved in something greater than just what they're doing. And your team, your family, can be a player in that process if you begin working on it. If you do not, however, I grew up in a home, there was no Zilke team, and I was going to go wherever the most persuasive and available team was. And it got me in some trouble. So develop a community, and not just any community, but a faith community. Who is the quarterback of your team? Jesus. And begin instilling this idea, this philosophy. God is the director of our team. Put T-shirts together. Get hats. Do the dorky things as you hear me describe them, that I got my own team hat. I'm in Team Ridenour. This is awesome. You see my hat? And I can totally see one of the Ridenour boys showing me his hat. I am in the Ridenour team. See this, Mr. Zilke? I can totally hear them saying that. Your child wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. Secondly, it allows your child to live others-centered. And that gets back to this, self-centered versus others-centered. If your child is one member of a team, he has or she has a role on the team. Are they the head of the team? No. Are they a part of the team? Yes. Are they essential to the functioning of a team? If you communicate to them, yes. But they are not the team themselves. And it helps the sharing portion, the deferring to your sibling, listening and obeying mother or father when they have something to tell you, because that's your role on the team. You're helping grease the skids for understanding what it means to be part of a body and not the center. You and I have learned we are not a team unto ourselves, and as Christians especially, we are part of a body, a collection of people. And life is most fulfilling when we are what? Effectively plugged into others and impacting and interacting with each other on a deep and intimate level. We are not Simon from Simon and Garfunkel. We are not a rock. We are not an island. We are not alone. We are designed to be part of a larger community. And so we want to encourage you to begin thinking this way and communicating this way in your home. Little things you can do, little terms that Julie's going to get into here in a moment. But this is a big picture principle that can begin being implemented on a very basic level. Julie's going to share some more about how that's done and the importance of that.
Okay. You guys have a quote in your handout. And I think I just really liked what she had to say. They're learning about who they are by looking around the table at dinner. They're learning about themselves by learning about the family around them. They're learning what kind of jokes make this family laugh. They're learning about who God is and what he's like. They're accumulating experiences that could never be planned, never given outside the context of constant, unrelenting fellowship. And then the bottom paragraph. Homes are tremendously powerful places because they are where people come from. There is no more important thing that you could be doing. And this last line, you do not go home to hide from the world. You go home to change it. That is the power of what happens in our homes. You know, we see things happening we saw a school shooting last week. I guarantee you there was something going on in his home. It's not an education problem. It's a home problem. Things begin and end at home, right? God places us into families. And we have a chance then to make those families shine and bring glory to the Lord. First, we get married, and that brings glory to God. Then we have a family, and that can bring even more glory to God when we're unified. So where do we begin? First, we need to be intentional, okay? You have to determine what your family culture is going to be. If you think that you're going to wake up one day, and you have a family maybe you admire, whatever, that's a few years ahead of you, and you think, well, someday we're going to be like them. I guarantee you, you won't. You have to determine, be intentional, steadfast, and persevere. You have to sit down with your spouse. If you're married, you have to vision cast, if you will. What do we want our family to be about? What do we want to look like in 5 years? Find families that you do aspire to be like. Pick their brains. That's what we have done. Okay, we didn't come from these kind of families, neither of us. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. He grew up in a dysfunctional one. So all that we have created has come from either watching other people or just, reading and vision just that God has given us. So be intentional. Some books that I think can help. I forgot one at home, Mission of Motherhood by Sally Clarkson. Again, this will be on our blog, broken down under this family culture. It's wonderful as a mother to give you a vision for what your role can be. There's another thing by the Clarkson called 24 Family Ways that is wonderful, that kind of helps you to think about, brainstorm what your family could be. And then this one is called Hold On to Your Kids. Heather has read this. You haven't read it? Okay. Written, yeah, right, written, sorry, read. Heather has read this. It is, yeah, right. It is one of the best parenting books I have ever read. It is for older. It's meant for older, but if you have youngers, you should read it now, okay? Why parents need to matter more than peers. This is not written from a Christian perspective at all, but it is truth if I've ever seen it. And this is definitely a must-read, would you say, for parents? So insightful. About why they need to belong somewhere. And it can be in your home. But if it isn't in your home, it will be somewhere. And you will lose them to that somewhere else. So you guys are going to come up with your own goals. I'm just going to share some of what the Zilke family goals are and then ways that we go about them, okay? So goal 1 was to be unified as a family. Matthew 5:16, right? That they would see our works and... Yes, let our light so shine that they would see our works and glorify our Father in heaven. That's what we want our family to be about, that they look at the Zilke family and they see a light shine, that we are unified, okay? We're not going off in all 10 directions. We're unified together. So how do we do this? The first thing we do is we seek forgiveness from each other. You might think, what? Okay, I can't tell you how important that is. That is like the bedrock of our family, because true forgiveness gives us the power to start over. Right? I mean, that's ultimately what Christ does for us. That's the big forgiveness, the ability to start over. That's what God does for us. Forgiveness is why it's possible for love to hold no record of wrongs. That crazy thing that it says in 1 Corinthians that love can actually hold no record of wrongs. And I think, really? Yeah, because that's what God did. And that's what we do for each other when we actually forgive each other. But you know what? This is why we don't do this, because it's harder. Isn't it a lot easier to give you I'm sorry. Sorry. Right? I mean, that rolls off the tongue. How about, will you forgive me for treating you that way? I was wrong. I sinned against you. Will you forgive me? That takes a lot more humility and just admitting on our part that we were wrong. It also encourages the other person, not encourages, it requires the other person to walk into that with us. See, that's a 2-part thing. Will you forgive me? Now the other person has to decide yes or no. Okay, Jeremy and I started doing this before we were even married. So we have always done this together. And then we have now implemented this with our children. Because think about it. Lisa, I'm sorry, I just screamed at you. What can be your only response? Okay, that's okay. Well, really, is it? Is it okay that I just sinned against you? It's not. It's not okay. No, right. It's not. So do you see? And you find me in the Bible where it says I'm sorry. It doesn't. Okay? The only way that we are instructed to reconcile with each other is through forgiveness. This is a big deal. This is how walls start getting built between family members because brothers squirm against each other. And I'm sorry. They're not really. I mean, there's no true repentance there, and the brothers know it, and it just starts to, will you forgive me? And not only do we do this together, but we say this to our children.
Yes. I never once heard my dad say, will you forgive me, in my life. I wish he had. He probably wishes he had as well now. But some of the most powerful ones, and Julie's great at this, she goes to them and says, I was wrong. I was angry. I overreacted. I made you feel bad. Will you forgive me? And she's a great example of that.
Well, I can just say that is my saving grace in my home because I mess up all the time. And the fact that I go and I say, will you forgive me? I was wrong, is my hope that they will see Christ in me and my need for him more, and that will cover over, right? Because love covers over all sin. And that's my claim to, being able to get back up again, even when I fall down. So going to them and in humility. And, they when asked, we'd go around and say, what are the strong points of Mama? What are the strong points of David? We'll go around. And that's one that they'll say, Mama, when you get mad, you come right over and you'll get down on your knee. I will get down on my knees at times. I was wrong. Will you forgive me? There's power in that. So that is our number one way that we stay unified as a family. The second thing is we honor each other. Again, a biblical principle, Ephesians 6, 1-3. Honor your mother and father, right? This is a promise. If you do this, it will go well with you. It's the only commandment that has a promise. You'll live a long life full of blessing, right? So we use that word. We talk in that language. It's a lot. It calls children up into something rather than be nice. Be nice to each other. Be nice. Give them something more than that. Honor. What does honor mean? Are you honoring your sister? Are you honoring your brother? What's that honoring? Talk about what that means. We are made in the image of God. We tell each other that. We are special. We need to treat each other that way. So I think it calls them up into more than just be nice. Anything you would
Nice
add?
is like good and bad.
Yeah.
It's an ineffective attempt to accomplish the goal that we want it to accomplish. So honor is a much better term to
We
use.
seek forgiveness from each other. We honor each other. We work with each other. Okay? And there's two more, which will be covered in the next two that we do as well. But I wanted to cover the first three tonight. We work with each other. Okay, I came from a home where I didn't know how to do anything. I went to college. I didn't know how to do laundry. I'd never made a box.
She didn't know macaroni and cheese came in a box.
I didn't know macaroni and cheese came in a box. Certainly I never made it. My mom did everything. She only had 2 children. I think she thought she could, and she was probably doing us a favor. But I just want to say, if I seem it all put together, and you come to my home and it seems it all put together, it's because I don't do everything, okay? I have 5 children who help me. If I was doing everything, I would be checked in to a mental hospital.
An asylum.
Yeah, probably. So we work together. We're a team. So from a very early age, we have our children working with us. Have you guys ever seen children play at a young age? What do they play doing? Yes, they play working. They want to help you. Don't miss your opportunity. Yes. Employ them. We went and stayed with a family that had 7 children. This was back when I had 2.
Maybe just had our 3rd.
2, and I think I was having my 3rd. Yeah. So I was still learning a bunch. Mm-hmm. And I remember she had her 2-year-old, and she had a squirt bottle, and she was going around squirting the windows. And I'm thinking, she's not helping you. She's making that worse. And why do you have her? And now I get it.
It annoyed us to no end when we saw it.
Yeah, but now Absolutely. I get it. That little girl was in training, and she wanted to help. And I've heard there's a saying that says, you have children work with you when they are young and they want to, so that when they're old and they don't want to, it will already be a habit in your home, a habit in their lives. So, people are like, I have my children doing all my laundry, our laundry.
Yep.
At ages 5 and 7, when we moved to St. Louis, they do all the laundry for our home. And people,
colors, whites, they can sort them. Yes. I have not washed, nor folded, nor carried a load of clothes in probably 3 years now. It can be done.
Okay, but I want to tell you, how did that happen? So how do you have your children doing laundry for 7 people at ages 5 and 7? Because you know what? When they were 2, they were folding towels with me. And when they were 3, they were sorting socks and folding towels with me. And when they were 4, they were folding pants and sort. Do you see what I'm saying? It builds. Well, again, it's training of what we're doing. They
Yes.
do it along with you. This is what we're doing. You know, it happens over course of time. So we call it Team Zilke. And, you know, Mama cooks. That's my main responsibility. And Papa takes out the garbage, and they have
Wash
to,
dishes. I wash
right,
dishes.
wash dishes.
For a time, the boys are almost that age.
Yeah.
Not quite there yet,
Yeah.
but they're getting there.
Yeah, but I don't do any vacuum. I mean, and they're clamoring to want to do new things. And so they really do it cheerfully. And it's not monetary in nature either.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't reward monetarily. We've never attached that. We're beginning to do some monetary things with David and Jonathan now, but it's not attached to their work at
Just
home.
part of being
And
part of
I
the
call
family.
it, we don't call it a chore list. We call it a contribution list. It's the way they contribute to our family. I contribute, nobody pays me.
This
So-
reinforces the idea. This reinforces the idea you're part of a team, right?
Yes.
Everybody on a team has their role. These are some of the roles you give them for the team to function appropriately.
Yes, and our last one, second goal here is to have close sibling relationships in our home. This is really important to us. I don't know about you guys, but we come from homes where our siblings are not our closest friends. We have closer friends otherwise. I don't believe, again, that's the way the Lord intended it to be. He set us in families. I think that families are supposed to be our closest friends, and that's what He desires.
We have worked hard in our adult years to establish those
Right.
friendships, but they weren't there in our childhood. And
But you have to know, if you don't do anything, the natural tendency is to drift apart,
yeah.
right? So you have to be intentional about creating those relationships. How do we do that? We elevate that relationship with siblings above other people. Now, you'll hear me at the end talk about that, so just bear with me, because I'm not trying to make it this exclusive thing, but we do talk about that. We say all the time, that is your best friend. He is your best friend. She is your best friend. If you ask our children, and you should test me, ask them at church, who's your best friend? They'll say a sibling. Then they might say, you know, an outside friend or two, but it is a sibling. That is their best friend, because that's who they're going to be with for the rest of their life, and that's what we talk about. Especially in the mobility of our world today, very rare are you having a childhood friend from the time you're in kindergarten anymore, because you're moving, people are moving. It's just not the same as
how
it
many
was.
had a childhood friend, a kindergarten friend, come to their Christmas dinner this year? Anyone? Were your siblings there? Yes, they were. So you see, it happens. That's just how life works
Yes.
itself out.
The other thing we do, and this is practical, like we're not having friends over unless we're treating each other well. Okay, so that's a reward. If you're having a bad day, I will cancel with a friend, because you know what? You're not being a friend to your brother. You ever seen that? They're like crap to their brother and sister, and then they have a friend over, and they're so sweet. I mean, that should not be tolerated or accepted in our homes. We have to let them know this is important. So now, again, I don't mean that to be exclusive. I think if anyone knows the Zilkes, we are very inclusive. We are always having people in our home, and people are important. So we're not trying to say, you know, Zilkes are more important, but do you see what I'm saying? Just trying to help them to know that we are a team. You know, God put us in this family, and there's a reason for that. The second way that we help is we share space, okay? I'm just a believer, and you could disagree with me. I don't care if you have 10 rooms in your house. I think your children should share a room. I think that the rest of their life they're going to be sharing. And it is wonderful for children to share rooms. Unstructured time together gives them just this bonding time. In fact, we send our children to bed about a half hour earlier than we really want them to go to bed, in order that they can just be squirrely and have fun, and they do. And I think it's just good training for the future. They're going to go to college and share with a roommate. They're going to, you know, after college, I had a roommate for practical purposes, because it was wise to not, you know, blow all my money on a one-bedroom apartment, but to find a roommate.
We've been doing a little Gettysburg Civil War documentary watching. I have, and the boys like it. The other night, evidently, the boys reenacted Pickett's charge on the third day. Jonathan walked out with scratches on his face and looked like a cat had gotten into a fight with him. I was like, "What happened to you?" He says, "Well, I was the Confederate division under Pickett. David's feet were the Union artillery. David's hands were the Union infantry. And, well, I lost." Just like historical.
Yeah.
And this is happening in bed when they're supposed to be getting ready for bed. Yeah. Now, this might infuriate you on the one hand, but this is the bond that can happen when they have that unstructured time together.
Yeah. Again, if you tell them they're separate, they'll be separate. If you tell them they're together, they'll be together. Start from the beginning. Well, Jeremy and I, we had David and Jonathan in separate beds.
In the same room,
in the
but
same
separate
room,
beds.
little twin beds. And one night we pushed them together because I remember that was like my favorite thing when I was a girl. I liked to push my bed together with my sister. Well, we did it for a couple nights, and then I was annoyed, type A. I couldn't make the beds. This is when they were littler. And so I'm like, we need to push them apart.
She didn't tell me. I thought they should be together, but she moved them apart anyway.
Yeah, so we pushed
I
them
didn't
apart,
know.
and David came home from Moana that night, and I was on the phone, and he went in to go into his little room. He's like, Mama, the beds are packed. I'm like, yeah, I'm on the phone. Just go to bed. Well, I got off the phone around 10:30 and found David asleep on the floor. I'm like, okay, what in the world happened here? So we wake him up, like, David, why are you on the floor? Oh, I guess I fell asleep trying to push the beds back together. And we said, well, he said to me, Julie, we want them to be best friends. We name them accordingly. Why wouldn't we let them sleep next to each other if that's what
Sometimes
they
you'll
desired?
stumble upon, unknowingly, the key and the step that you should take. It doesn't happen simply because you get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes your child will show you what the right step is.
Yeah. So if they want to, snuggle together, encourage that. I know there
So
might
now
be
they share a bed. They're locked in. It's our queen-size guest bed. When the guests come, they're able to stay there. Those boys are going to be together for a long time. They are locked in now, and years down the line, we'll probably rediscuss that at some point.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yep.
It works.
So that, that really concludes tonight.